Hello and welcome once again. This is Weapons Left bringing you the OSL semifinals. This game was played on August the 14th, 2009. Today I have for you none other than Jaedong and Fantasy. This should be amazing. We have basically two of the best players in the world with a whole lot on the line beyond just this OSL. Obviously, the majority of you have already seen the result of the Pro League, so you know that Jaedong lost to Fantasy in the Pro League Grand Finals on both days. Once in just a straight up match, then in the Ace match on the second day, allowing SK Telecom 1 to win the Grand Finals in the Pro League, and that just has to smite. It has to hit a nerve with Jaedong, and so I cannot imagine that what kind of basically regiment he has endured to get to this point. I'm sure that he has practiced relentlessly for these games that we're going to see today. This first game should be very, very telling, I would say, in terms of where Jaedong's head is. Most people have been saying slump, fatigue, whatever the case may be. Coming off his losses to Calm yesterday in the MSL semifinals, I have a feeling that Jaedong really was focused only on these games. He wants revenge for himself, for his team, and we're going to see just what he's going to be able to do to combat a Fantasy that has just been playing at an extremely top tier level, and that has not lost to Jaedong since that those OSL finals that we all witnessed on the grand stage. So here we have Fantasy as your Terran player. He will be starting off, it looks like, in the 3 o'clock position, Jaedong on the 9 o'clock position. This is Heartbreak Ridge. And look at those eyes. I think that we have a little bit of return of the focus that we've been looking for from Jaedong. He's one of those players that you really can look at the way he just sits in the booth, and you can tell how intent he is and how focused he happens to be on any given match. And so we're going to find out, I guess, right now what the deal is. It looks like his Overlord is headed out in a northeastern direction, more than likely trying to scout any type of oddity that Fantasy might be going for. He might be trying to extract the minerals from that patch. Wish I could see what was on that sign. Another thing that's cool about these OSL finals is that, or semifinals rather, excuse me, is that there's so many people in this crowd. Look at this crowd of people. And there you have the triple revenge sign. I would have to say that that's more than a little bit fitting. We're looking at a rivalry here that is really becoming quite intense between Fantasy and Jaedong. These guys are just not in any. They don't have any desire basically to lose to the other, and I really like seeing that type of intensity in two players. It just brings something else to a series. Another sign really making me wish that I knew Korean, but that's okay. It looks like, by the way, going back to the game, that Fantasy was actually in the process of building a barracks in a non-standard position, and I don't believe that Jaedong's drone has found it yet. So that giving him a small advantage, possibly playing some mind games with Jaedong, allowing him. Oh, but it looks like Jaedong is going to spot this barracks, and so okay, he's going to spot the barracks. He's going to now be somewhat relieved, knowing that there is no proxy strategy that he has to counter against. So he can go ahead and play a little bit more standard. It looks like he did go for a 12-hatch opening. So Jaedong would have been weak to a proxy attack if Fantasy had gone for that. But it looks like because of the more standard opening that Fantasy is going for, that Jaedong is going to be in a slightly advantageous position, having established his second hatchery and gaining somewhat of an economic lead. Late spawning pool is not going to really matter because there's not going to be enough early pressure from the barracks that is already lifted. So just a single Marine produced, really just to kind of eliminate the scout. And now we're going to see the factory play come into action for Fantasy. They'll be curious to see if he goes for an all-mech build, if that's the build order that he's going for Fantasy, or if he's going to be trying to play Bionic. And it looks like a third hatchery going down now after the spawning pool completes. So Jaedong is intent on some 3-hatch play. More than likely we're going to see something along the lines of a 3-hatch Hydra build. And oh, nice. A nice surround that he gets on Fantasy's SCV there. And it looks like that might go down. It does go down. So Jaedong already showing a lot of great control, just managing to eliminate that SCV, eliminate some of that scouting information. Fantasy losing an SCV that early hurts and smites a little bit. Gas finally going up for Jaedong, and it looks like that factory is complete. It looks like Vultures, the key unit for Fantasy in any game, are going to be starting to get produced immediately here. And now Fantasy taking the time to expand as well. So Fantasy gonna go ahead and try and equalize out some of the economic advantage. If we can keep equal with Jaedong in terms of bases, that's certainly going to be advantageous for him, as Terran is just such a resilient race. It looks like a sunken colony going down already for Jaedong, already anticipating the Vulture that is on its way to his base. And that is going to be crucial in terms of his defense. Fantasy is just such an incredible micro user when it comes to Vultures. He is just such a ridiculously good micro that it's impressive to watch, to be honest, and it's very, very necessary for Jaedong to defend against the economic damage that Fantasy can wreak with really, really talented Vulture play. That Hydralisk dent is now going down for Jaedong, so we are going to see some Hydra play, probably going to go into translate that into lurkers in the late game, and try and go ahead and add some additional pressure. I don't know if Jaedong is going to go for some drop play, which is usually relatively effective on Heartbreak Ridge, or if that's going to be the play that Fantasy might be going for. It looks like he's throwing a Starport down, so he is in the process of more than likely of going in for some of his classic Vulture harass. I have a feeling that Fantasy will go ahead and try and break those defenses of Jaedong's by utilizing a dropship and try and translate that into some economic damage to try and counteract the effectiveness of that 12 pool that he was able to successfully construct. So now Fantasy also placing some mines around the map. Obviously that upgrade has finished, so he's going to go ahead and place those mines down, give him a little bit more scouting information. Control tower is going down, so we are going to see some dropships coming from Fantasy. And that's, I think, a very wise move. Jaedong has fortified the opening, or the beginning entrance to his base, but I don't believe that he's going to solidify the defenses in his main base because of the wall. And if he can keep showing Vultures, if Fantasy can continue to show Vultures at the front door, and then go ahead and use a dropship to kind of feint into the base, I believe that he's going to be able to do a lot of damage with this drop. It's very important that he does not lose these vessels, though. Then Jaedong marching out on the field here is going to be able to clear some of those spider mines. And now, with a relatively significant number of Hydralisks, Fantasy is rapidly approaching critical mass. Like it really, he needs to get that dropship out and create some damage right now, or he's going to be in a world of hurt trying to deal with the Hydralisks that Jaedong is producing. And unless he can force those Hydralisks back, and it looks like an Overlord in very, very good position to try and catch this drop. So maybe, and then that Overlord is now moving. Has been alerted by the positioning of those Vultures. The dropship is now grabbed those Vultures, but the Overlord is moving in the wrong direction. That Hydralisk might see it, though, that's being rallied. And yes, Jaedong does react, but will he react in time? Vulture's in his main base, and Jaedong sees this, but a line of spider mines already constructed, and we're seeing some drones getting hurt here. Several drones dying as they retreat from Jaedong's main, and the wall of spider mines still in place. Gonna take out a bunch of Hydralisks there. Just not wow, and another gas drone dies. So this has been an extremely successful drop for Fantasy. And he's gonna hit some more drones as they return to the line. Then the final Vulture finally cleaned up by Jaedong, but Fantasy has to be feeling good about that drop. That is exactly what he needed to get himself back into this game. And in the meantime, it looks like with the Academy, as well as the Engineering Bay, that he's going to be able to prepare himself for Mutalisk, as well as go back into a fallback of Bionic units. I think that we're going to see Bionic play out of Fantasy here to combat this Mass Hydra push that we're going to see from Jaedong. And Bunker's already up, as well as Science Vessels. So, in a pretty decent position here is Fantasy to go ahead and move forward after that solid harassment. And it looks like Jaedong has Overlord speed, is going to need it based upon that. Wow, nice snipe there with the Scourge on the Science Vessel for Jaedong. Very, very ugly mistake for Fantasy to lose the Science Vessel that early. That's a very big deal. Jaedong Just getting a little bit over anxious there. Ate a spider mine, and that could have been absolutely devastating. The first Mutalisks are out now on the map, though, for Jaedong, and it looks like these turrets are going to get up right about in time as the additional barracks are being constructed as well. And Fantasy just has a pretty stalwart defense. I do not know how effective these Mutalisks are going to be, but this is going to be quite the showdown that we're about to see here.